Okay, welcome back. It's a great pleasure to spend time on the subject at hand this evening. It is one of the most unique I have ever had the opportunity to explore with two extraordinary gentlemen. They are back with us tonight. As many of you know, we have, over the years, done a lot of programming and talked to a lot of people about non-local consciousness, the collective unconscious, whatever you want to call it, the old we are all one kind of thing, and it's true. We are all tied together. And as a mass of consciousness, there are ways to plumb that knowledge, and these gentlemen have come up with a way to do so. It's very unusual, to put it mildly, and utterly fascinating. Their website is called halfpasthuman.com, and I hope all of you go there and take a look. This is really something amazing. They call it, subtitled, Adventures in Future Viewing. Precognition, maybe, but it seems to be more than that. And so let's not waste any more time and welcome our two guests back to the program. George Ure is the first one. Are you there, George?
No, I'm someplace else.
Good, good. And Clif, I hope you're not there either.
No, I'm not here as well.
Excellent. Well, we're half past trouble, then, is what it is. halfpasttrouble.com. No guests, but we're going to fake it. We have two stand-ins, George and Clif, who are going to pull it off. I can tell.
You can?
I know. I had a dream last night.
We have to tell you the future?
I dreamed it last night. Never mind. Got it all. You guys can leave now if you want. I'm just going to tell them what I dreamed.
No.
We're almost snowed in. There's no point for me going anywhere.
Now, Clif, you're almost snowed in, and you're on the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, just joking, although we are experiencing a snow, hail, extreme weather event in Puget Sound today and over through tomorrow, probably a little bit into Sunday.
You know, they have this thing called the high temperature and the low temperature overnight. Then they have what they call real feel. In other words, what it really feels like. Say it's 25, but it really feels like 24 or whatever. Well, in the Northwest, the temperatures are calling for lows for the next 5 days in the 20s, and the real feel down in single digits, 7, 8, 9 degrees. That's going to be very cold, and I really feel sorry for all the fruit trees. They're going to take it hard on the chin. Of course, you guys knew all this anyway.
Yes, and the cost of the trucking in the propane heat and then the refilling on it. And propane is not particularly efficient. I mean, it's very efficient at putting out the heat, but it's not a high BTU per volume unit fuel. Correct. So it's going to be very expensive for these poor fellows. For us as well. The
best thing to do, if any of you are thinking about getting a stove, is to get a wood stove that is clad with soapstone. It becomes an enormous thermal mass, and you only have to burn a few logs, and the thing stays warm for 8, 10, 12 hours. The Scan company makes them. Tulakivi makes another one, very expensive, but the Scan...
There's also a cheaper alternative, and it's called Russian fireplaces, and basically it's the same kind of a concept, or Finnish fireplaces. You can find them online, maybe even through some of the old Whole Earth catalog or Mother Jones kind of magazines, but you take a wood stove and basically surround it with sand that's encased in brick.
There you go.
The same effect.
Same idea. Thermal mass. It's very smart. Soapstone, of course, is more elegant, but the idea is the same. That's a good idea. Okay, we're going to talk about the future, and we're going to talk about it in a way that few of you have ever heard before, unless you happen to hear George and Clif when they were on, March 12th. And they're back. And I asked them to come back because things continue to happen that are really pushing the limit. Now, here we have, just for openers, it's almost like the perfect storm. We have a very, very cold snap coming in for the next week. It's going to damage a lot of fruit trees. There's just no question about it, unless people have smudge pots or other ways to keep them warm. So this combines, of course, with absolutely soaring food prices. a diminution in wheat availability. Rice is pushing all-time record highs. Wheat is already at all-time record highs. Companies that are rice exporters are now deciding not to export rice anymore. They're going to hold on to it, and you can't blame them. But George and Clif are here to talk about all of that and much more. Their website, again, halfpasthuman.com, Adventures in Future Viewing. Flee now before it is too late. That's what it says on their site, anyway. All right, now
well, good reason.
Yes, indeed. I had a story up, in fact, I still do at Rense.com, called Accidentally on Purpose, and it does make the case that all of these things are happening probably not coincidentally. Not all of them, at any rate, and there are certainly going to be the super elite, as they always do, who are going to profit immeasurably at the expense of what's left of the middle class and the sacrificed members of the upper class. They're going to feed off their losses. It's the way it works.
All right. But we also should acknowledge the deeper meaning of what you just said, though, that these things are coincidental and at the same time interconnected, and they may or may not be meaningful. But at a core level, we know, for instance, that the tensions that affect the greater part of the populace of the planet are intimately connected with their daily weather experience. And as that changes and puts more pressure on them, we get people that are a little bit more irritable. Start compounding and going from there.
And then we have also, of course, George, the self-fulfilling prophecy concept, which works into this somehow. And, you know, enough people start thinking things are going to be bad, and damn if they're not going to be bad.
We see a lot of evidence of that, Jeff, when you look at technical analysis of stock markets. Every so often, somebody will come along with a great new way to figure out the slam dunk, surefire way to make money in a stock market. And whether it's Elliott waves or on-balance volume that Joe Granville was a proponent of, what ends up happening is somebody has an insight into how to predict the future behavior of financial markets, and some core begins to adopt it, and they make money at it. And then all of a sudden it goes DeVoe, it goes mainstream. And suddenly, when everybody on the planet starts doing the same kind of technical analysis, it stops working. And so that's the kind of thing that goes on. Not everybody can look at an Elliott wave chart, come to the same conclusion, and all make money. I mean, there's going to be winners and losers. Right. And by the same token, people who look strictly at on-balance volume, before it became popular, it was very easy to take a somewhat unknown technique and actually make some pretty serious bank. But once it became spread out so that everybody knew about it, and that's where we are right now with things like food. When I was on the show with you and Clif back in the middle of March, I think I said, you know, based on Clif's work, when I look forward from an investment standpoint, it seems like commodities are probably going to go up through maybe middle of June to middle of July.
Right, you did say that, yeah. And
I said concurrent with that, we'd probably see a screaming mother rally in the stock market.
12,800 plus on the Dow. I mean, there's nothing wrong, folks. Everything's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, everything's all good. But
well, George, why don't you tell them about the idea of the crack-up boom, though?
Well, yeah, there's a school of economists called the von Mises,
Ludwig von Mises.
Yes. And his theory is that before you run into the big concrete wall, everything is going to look splendid, grand. You're going to have a runaway blow-off, everything, just like 1928, 29. Yeah, the bond market collapsed in late 28, early 29. There were serious problems in the fixed income markets back then, not unlike we're having in the derivatives and the fixed income markets and the CDOs and SIVs and everything else now.
Well, there were no hedge funds back then, though, $500 trillion worth.
But they had their equivalents. I mean, that's what the trusts were. People forget that there's nothing new really in finance. It's just repackaged.
Well, that's what they're doing. Excuse me, but I've been telling a few friends and things, that's what's going on now. They're literally reconfiguring the game. That's what's happening.
Yeah, you repackage the game. I mean, it's the same game.
That's
right.
What
you try to do is you leverage the hell out of everything, right?
Yep.
And you get everybody to borrow up to their shorts.
Yep.
And then everybody looks surprised. When
pull the rug out from under them, and that's it. And,
yeah.
Go back to go, do not collect anything, and try it again.
And there goes your retirement.
It's gone. Pension funds, goodbye. Gone.
Fine.
George Ure and Clif High are our guests, and you've just heard George talking. We'll come right back and give you a little background on these two gentlemen. They are extraordinary, and what they have achieved is really, truly amazing. We're going to talk about the future, and you don't want to miss any of this. And we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back talking with George Ure and Clif High. All right, gentlemen, George is the economist here, and let's just do a little bit background, if we can, a little on your experience for our listeners, and we'll get into this whole thing of how you two work together and what you're doing.
Oh, it's really strange. The real short version of it, Jeff, is when I was in high school, I fell in love with electronics, became a broadcast engineer, newscaster at age 21, big city news director at 23, did that till 1983 or so.
Wow.
Did a turnaround as vice president of a small international airline down in the Caribbean, Cayman Airways, built a broadcasting college, took some paramilitary single sideband radio equipment to market. The list goes on and on. I was with a company called Cruising Equipment. We did battery instrumentation on everything from race around the world sailboats to electronics in the U-2000, which was the updated version of the U-2 spy plane. And besides that, software company turnaround a couple of years ago, built a 96-track recording studio in L.A., living on a ranch kind of out here in the outback of East Texas, master's in business, a couple of 4 patents I'm a co-holder on. That's about it. Pretty boring life.
That's a great screenplay or two right there. That's,
yeah. And oh, by the way, lived on a sailboat for 10 years, and in our backyard, in our lower part of our property, we had a tornado touchdown last night. So
last night?
Yeah. All that stuff that went through Dallas? We lost 24 trees, including probably 24 oak trees that you can't get your arms around. They're that big.
Jeez. Wow.
And
don't take it personally now. Don't take it personally.
George kind of does, though. You have to understand his life in terms of a much more archetypical view of the world, which is kind of where I come in. George has this thing going with earth, wind, fire, and water elements. And for a while he was on the sailboat, lived and immersed himself in water for 10 years, as he said. And then coincidentally, as he's getting away from the water world, what happens but the house that he's living in Florida, wasn't it, George, that had the 30-foot geyser of flame? Yeah,
it was a 2.5-inch high-pressure gas line. We were leasing this house, right? And we came home one night, and it wasn't 30-foot, Cliff. It was like 65 feet. What had happened is lightning had hit, come down a power line at the neighbor's place, touched off this gas leak, and it's like coming home to a hell of a Burnzo torch.
That's
and the
amazing.
Whole neighborhood.
That's truly amazing.
The funny part of all this is my whole family is firefighters, right? Fire chiefs, captains, regular rank-and-file firefighters, and co-inventors of the medical
Well, at least
system.
the blowtorch wasn't coming up through your living room when you got home.
Well,